Hi, everyone. My name is Dylan. I'm a research analyst at Missari, primarily covering DePIN. Presentation, brief state on the state of DePIN, very abbreviated. I only have 10 minutes, so I'll get right at it. And then we have a panel on DePIN on the question if it's overhyped and where the real value is following the brief. So DePIN market cap is now over 20 billion. It's up over 443% since this time last year. As you can see, we've seen immense growth in DePIN market caps. Some of these tokens didn't exist last year, such as BitTensor. Helium's up over 500%, and across the board, we're seeing very significant growth in the sector. DePIN fundraising is up 437%. So far in September of 2024 compared to all of 2023. So we're also seeing VC investment, early stage fundraising following market cap growth. As you can see, 334 million raised, now more, and nearly 100 deal counts this year, and rounds as large as 50 million for IoTechs, and then deals across the board from GPU compute and IoNet, Peak's another DePIN-focused L1, Dawn's a fixed wireless broadband network, Daylight is a sort of virtual power grid in the energy sector. So we're seeing projects being raised across the board. Also want to highlight the evolution of the DePIN sector over the last year and a half or so. So this was Missari's DePIN sector map in January of 2023. See mostly a lot of storage networks, a few compute networks, some wireless networks, but not a lot going on beyond that. Then this is 6-7 months later. See already significant growth, projects added, especially compute side, seeing some AI use cases and machine learning. More geospatial networks launching, just already a lot of growth into 2023. And this is our most recent DePIN sector map. Now seeing hundreds of DePIN emerge. This is just a small sample of what's out there in the market today, but seeing immense growth in the energy sector, AI, machine learning, inference, and just general compute. Growth, more on the kind of data collection side for geospatial networks, as well as an expansion in underlying infrastructure for DePIN. So this is a massively growing sector. Market cap's up a lot. Fundraising is up a lot. And I think it's fair to say it's a hot sector narrative. We also see where DePINs are being built. So Solana is leading at present, followed pretty closely by Ethereum. See DePIN specific L1s like IoTechs and Peak, Polygon. DePIN's basically being built across the board, and it's growing every day. So I also want to highlight briefly how I think DePIN is beating traditional physical infrastructure, or at least some of the benefits that it uniquely enables. So first is crowdsourced CapEx. We can leverage crowdsourced hardware that eliminates the need for a single entity to raise capital for network construction or deployment. Some cases we have superior unit economics just by distributing CapEx and OpEx among local infra providers. This can lead to lower costs. So they might have real estate they already own. They can bypass permitting laws, or they have localized knowledge. And we're able to deploy networks more efficiently in that way. We also scale globally from day one, so we can build in parallel. With DePIN, we're seeing nodes go up on every continent, just a couple weeks from launch, and that's just not something you really see in traditional infrastructure networks or companies. And then DePIN can take advantage of blockchain technology, smart contracts. This can automate the back end. We can use DeFi. We could use a lot of what's been built infrastructure-wise in crypto and blockchain over the last few years. This can greatly accelerate the development of the network. Then, of course, permissionless censorship resistance, eliminate the reliance on centralized authority, and this has structural advantages in terms of accelerating the deployment of a network. Also briefly highlight two rising sectors in our time among many. First one's wireless. I'm going to highlight wireless mobile. So with wireless mobile DePIN networks, we can lower CapEx of expanding coverage, outsource OpEx to hotspot operators, basically have devices that can connect to a wireless network and then provide coverage to devices around them. We're seeing significantly cheaper mobile plans being introduced. For example, Helium Mobile, $20 a month for an unlimited data plan compared to $60 to $160 on average for a conventional plan. And this is disrupting complacent monopolies. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile are about 99% of the US telecom market, and it's kind of ripe for disruption. As we can see, this is kind of a large problem since the 4G era. Spending has been outpacing revenue growth, so it's becoming increasingly expensive to expand networks as we go to 5G, 6G, and we need a more capital-efficient way of expanding networks, and DePIN's one of the possible solutions to do this. As we see with Helium Mobile, we now have over 115,000 signups as of mid-September, 19,000 hotspots deployed globally. Helium Mobile launched, I think, in December of 2023, so very high growth. Helium's mobile offload, which basically lets other cell phone carriers offload their subscribers to Helium's also growing immensely, 63,000 daily offload subscribers, nearly 40 terabytes of offload data. So we're seeing both growth in offload and unlimited data plans. As we see, we're seeing kind of fundamental driven price appreciation based on Helium signups. So Helium hit 100K signups on July 15th. Since then, pretty wide divergence between Helium's AT&T's performance and the rest of crypto's majors. Briefly go through energy, seeing a lot of early stage activity in virtual power plants. These basically connect decentralized energy sources like solar panels and batteries through a cloud-based system. This can balance supply and demand for the grid. A lot of the US energy grid was built before the 1900s. Solar energy is now the cheapest energy source in the world. It could be a $300 to $400 billion market. DePIN can kind of potentially come in and help optimize these markets. So this is one example of a virtual power plant, immense growth globally, over 10K devices connected, and tokens already being distributed. It's another example of UX here. This is the Daylight Energy mobile app. You can redeem rewards by being connected to the network, like your solar panels or your EV devices or batteries, and you get rewarded basically. Kind of running low on time. I just wanted to highlight a few challenges on the DePIN sector. First, needs more revenue. DePIN sector market cap, the revenue multiple is about 1,000x, so 15, 20 million revenue for a 20 billion market cap. So we see some pretty large multiples. Some are on the lower end, but it's a very significant issue. We need to build out the demand side and make sure all the supply being generated meets demand. Second challenge, I'll go through this briefly, decentralized verification for highly physical protocols. This was a big debate on Twitter, just hire more physical networks. This is mostly location dependent, like solar energy networks, geospatial type networks have harder verification than lower P networks. Won't go too deep into this for time, but we need to have an easier way to verify networks in a decentralized way without relying on centralization. Just skipping this for time. And third challenge, supporting DePIN founders. So DePIN requires cross-disciplinary expertise. You need deep infrastructure knowledge and deep crypto knowledge, not a very large overlapping skill set. So the industry kind of has to answer, how do we best support infrastructure founders coming to crypto founders coming to infrastructure, to include education, more funding for DePIN, abstracting complexity so that specific problems are solved, and just making it easier to build DePINs.